Oh my god. It's back. The Muppets are back! Okay, I probably said that a bunch of times before, but this feels real this time. The Muppets are back, the Muppet Show is back, the spirit is back, it's all back! The Muppets are so back! Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Muppet Vlog. And this time, I will be talking about the 2026 revival special of The Muppet Show, which is honestly something that me and many other Muppet fans have been highly anticipating for. Not just because the Muppets that we all know and love are coming back, but also this is the grand return of the original 1970s TV show. It's the comeback of that particular Muppet Show. Now, yes, there is a little bit of an updated twist to it, which I will get to a little bit later, but for the most part, this is that series deciding to now really come back in a big way, in which it is brought to us by not just Disney and the Muppet Studios, of course, but also Point Grey, Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg's company. So now the moment has finally come, and now we can get to go and actually check it out, not just on Disney Plus, but also seeing it being aired on ABC. Now, to go and give you a summary of what this special is all about, well, honestly, the title pretty much says it all. It's a revival of The Muppet Show. And I will go and say right now that this really does stay true to the formula of the original series. It's a variety show in which it is filled with many different sketches, including, of course, comedy sketches, but also there are musical numbers, and, of course, a bunch of backstage mayhem that has a little bit of a plot going on, which in this case is actually about the return of the Muppet Show, where now Kermit and the gang are bringing back the stage production, and apparently a bunch of different acts all come in to go and want to perform, in which Kermit indirectly said no, but of course the message did not come through. So Kermit is just under a lot of stress and pressure to do everything he can in order to manage everyone and see what he can do in order to keep the show running, to keep things under control, while at the same time you got so many of these different Muppets hoping that they could have their time to shine, to get their act be shown on stage, especially when it comes to Miss Piggy, who is an absolute show stealer, which I will get to in a little bit. But of course, at the same time, while all that is happening, you also do have a main special guest star in this, which in this case is Sabrina Carpenter, which not only is she there to go and sing a few songs, including her own with Man-Child, but at the same time, she is also there to go and interact with some of the Muppets, like with Kermit and Miss Piggy. And I will go and say now that one thing that they've done to differentiate itself from the original series is that Sabrina Carpenter was not the only special guest star in this, because then there is also Seth Rogen who shows up, and even Maya Rudolph.
I mean, yes, but not that big.
Now, I might as well go and start by talking about the fact that this is the revival of The Muppet Show and how it does stay true to that formula, because honestly, that's one of the best things about this special, is how it is very faithful and that it is very true to the original formula that we've all come to love. And as someone who personally grew up with the Muppets, I just personally felt very dazzled by the fact that they're bringing this back, because outside outside of Saturday Night Live, it's very rare to see variety shows ever show up in general. They've become a bit of a rare breed nowadays. They're not as popular as what they used to be. But with the Muppet Show bringing this back, it kind of feels like what's old suddenly feels new again. And yeah, I will admit there is a little bit of that nostalgia that I've gotten from that, to see that that old original formula is suddenly back. It suddenly feels fresh again. Suddenly, like, it's updated and giving us something new with what they have originated about 50 years ago with it. So in terms of that, as a Muppet fan myself, that's something that I greatly appreciated when watching this, is how it does stay true to it by delivering us moments of musical numbers from both the Muppets and from Sabrina Carpenter. And then you got some comedy sketches that happen as well, with a mix of like old and new bits that they would go and deliver. Like, of course, you got a classic one with Dr. Bunsen Honeydew and Beaker. And then you also got a new one called Pigs and Wigs, in which it puts the spotlight on Miss Piggy during this Baroque or Victorian era like moment. And things would go and, well, I'm not going to go and like spoil anything, but of course, with the Muppets, things don't always go as planned.
Hola! You gotta be kidding me!
And as a Muppet fan, that's something that I really do appreciate. It's not just the fact that they brought the formula back, but they brought it back and they were able to go and make it work, where, again, they managed to make that classic formula, that classic routine and that classic style of the show, where they managed to make it work. They managed to make it entertaining again. And not to mention, sprinkled in with all the Muppet craziness, where in each moment, rather it be with the sketches or with the musical numbers, there's always a hilarious, wacky moment that's just around the corner that just makes it a lot of fun to go and watch.
No, that's just an old theater, you know. These pipes can be pretty noisy.
And not to mention that for those longtime Muppet fans, oh, you're going to get a very special treat, because there are a lot of deep cuts that are featured in here. Like, it's not just the main characters that are coming back, but there are some moments where you would actually see a lot of the more obscure Muppets, or some of the ones that showed up mainly in the original Muppet Show, suddenly making a comeback. Like, you'll have a moment where Pops is just sleeping at the entrance, like he has always done, like in the later seasons of the original. And I was honestly absolutely shocked to find that Hilda was making a comeback. She was just like a season 1 character and has never returned since. But then suddenly you got the one moment where Hilda was actually backstage and helping out the chickens. And honestly, it's pretty shocking to see. And this is not even to mention like many of the others that you will find, like not just from the Muppet Show, like with Wayne and Wanda, for example, but then you would also get some of the later ones as well, where in the background you'll also see Johnny Fiamma and Sal just running around. And not to mention those that we haven't seen in a long time who are fan favorites, like Rizzo actually returned with a musical number where he would sing The Weeknd's Blind Light. Or you would also have Bean Bunny coming in, who is also part of the background. So for Muppet fans out there, this is also great to see which Muppets have made a comeback, like which ones that you can go and recognize. So there's going to be a bunch of Easter eggs that you could go and enjoy. Like that alone is worth revisiting to go and see which Muppets have made a comeback in this, because I can guarantee you there is a lot. But then at the the same time, there are also some things that are a little bit different than the original Muppet Show. Like, they're technically minor aspects, but they are noticeable things that really do make it stand out compared to how it was done 50 years ago with the original series. Like, one thing that does stand out to me is the cinematography of it, where it's a lot more intricate than what was done before. Because in the original Muppet Show, there are always those same static camera positions that they would constantly change from time to time, rather if they're on the stage or if they're backstage and stuff like that. The camera positions always have remained the same, and there's always like the same ones that they would switch from time to time. But in this one here, it's a lot more complex and it's a lot more intricate. I think the best way to go and describe it is that the way it moves around the camera, or the way that they would cut to different camera positions, feels a little bit more similar to something like the 2011 movie, more so than the 1970 series, which is not a complaint whatsoever, but it does make it a little bit interesting, where that's an aspect where you could tell that this is a more modern Muppet Show per se, or that it has a bit of a modern filmmaking approach compared to the original series. And another element that is noticeably different is that it does often cut to the audience, in which we see that it's not just filled with Muppets, but it also features a bunch of humans that are also watching the show as well, or just people, like non-Muppets per se. And that's also another thing that I feel like can be comparable to the 2011 movie, where it occasionally goes and shows the audience's reaction. And primarily, like, they would go and do that to go and see the bits with Maya Rudolph, since that was kind of like her role in the special, is that she was part of the audience and she was interacting with another Muppet. And one thing I will go and say now is that I would say with the Maya Rudolph moments, those are cute, but I do feel like they are the weaker parts of this special. But this is not to say that this is a criticism, even though I do find that maybe the Maya Rudolph bits are a bit unnecessary. They're not bad at all. I just find that the other segments, or the moments with Kermit, Miss Piggy, or Sabrina Carpenter, they're honestly a lot stronger than this. And honestly, like, just to get into that criticism aspect, if I do have any of those kinds of criticisms, like, at the most, they would just be like very minor nitpicks, because I don't actually think there's anything bad with this special in particular. It's just the weaker moments, I would categorize them as good. They are cute. They would deliver like some chuckles. But this is compared to everything else where I would just get massive laughs out of it. So, but before I go into the comedy aspect of it, this is just to go and highlight just some of the big differences, where it's with the cinematography, with the audience. And by the way, just a quick side note, because I did almost forget to mention, this is another thing that they actually did bring back from the Muppet Show. Like, to separate from like the differences, one thing that is also very similar or the same as the original series is that the audience reaction, or the laugh track, actually did come back, which is another thing that nowadays honestly feels very rare, but it is a very nice detail and a nice touch to really add that authenticity of how the original series was. So, like, even though now we are seeing more of the actual audience, we also get to hear the audience as well, which does bring back that magic of the Muppet Show. But okay, anyways, I got a little bit sidetracked there, but to go back to my main point, yes, yes, even though most of it is very much the same as the original series, there are those differences like cinematography, actually seeing the audience and even showcasing one of the guest stars in there. And on top of that, yes, well, I've already explained it, but you also got the different special guest stars. It's not just Sabrina Carpenter, but you also got Maya Rudolph that I've already mentioned, and also Seth Rogen does make a cameo since, yes, he is one of the executive producers and has a little bit of like a fun meta moment. Like, he only shows up in like 2 scenes and that's it, like just 2 quick little moments, but even those I do find that they used them very, very well, and it was a lot of fun to see.
This is incredible. It's always been a dream of mine to be here.
Ooh, got any other dreams?
But now getting into the comedy, and even though I did say that the Maya Rudolph bits have given me some chuckles, everything else, especially with the Muppets doing what they regularly do, oh my God, I was laughing out loud throughout. Man, the comedy is absolutely on point because now the focus is back on not just the zaniness, but also with the personalities as well. And that's another amazing thing about this series, and what really makes it great is that now the spotlight really is onto the personalities, like with Kermit, with Miss Piggy, with Gonzo, with Fozzie, with all the Muppets that are either on stage or off stage as well, with all the chaos that's been going around. It's just a lot of fun to go and see, and just the jokes are just fantastic, especially with how the personalities are doing what they can when surrounded by all the chaos. And since I did mention that Miss Piggy is a show stealer, oh my goodness. Outside of Kermit, really, it is Miss Piggy that has taken the spotlight here. She's just a lot of fun just to go and watch and really be her diva self, where she desperately wants to be like the main act of all this. But of course, with all the chaos, she's not handling it well, similarly to Kermit, where basically as much as she tries to go and be center stage and wants to be like the prime Muppet of them all, things don't necessarily work out that well. Rather it be trying to get her big musical number, be on the show, or even during the Pigs and Wigs segment. It's honestly just great with how they nailed the comedy, rather it be with the zaniness or with the interaction with the other Muppets. They're just so much fun. They really did nail not just the personalities, but also with the comedy. It will just having you laughing like again and again and again with every surprising twist and every bit of chaos that they would just go and deliver. And not to mention, of course, it's not always about the comedy, but also the heart is there as well, where at the end of the day, like, even though you get a bunch of songs, you get a bunch of comedy sketches, this is about all these Muppets coming together to go and put on a show. And the finale, I'm not going to go and spoil it, but I feel it does reflect that well, where Kermit would go and try to find a solution on how to get everyone together. Like, what would be Kermit's big solution of having all these sketches and all these performers? How can Kermit make everybody happy in this entire situation? And the finale they chose for this, it really ties all this together, where even though it's not the funniest moment, it definitely is the most heartfelt moment that really does tie all this together to really feel like this is a legitimate Muppet special. Because as much as the Muppets are about the crazy comedy, they're also about the heart as well, where it's about this community that all came together to go and put on a show.
Look, do you trust me?
Well, of course we do, Kermit.
Now, I know that I've discussed plenty about Maya Rudolph and Seth Rogen with their appearances, but let's talk about Sabrina Carpenter because she is the main special guest star in this, and I feel like for this special, they made a great choice because she understood the assignment here. Not only is she a great singer, I mean, that's pretty much to be expected in this. Of course, she would do great with the musical segments, but even with the backstage moments where she would be interacting with Kermit and Miss Piggy, she has also done great with the acting and with the comedy as well, to work alongside with those Muppets. She was also a delight to go and watch because she genuinely feels like not just a special guest star, but a special guest star of the Muppet Show, where her interactions and her bits of comedy as well, they feel as genuine as those special guest stars that appeared back in the 1970s. So I think they made the right choice with having her be the guest star for this special, and hopefully she will go and set an example of how these modern performers should go and interact with the Muppets from there.
I mean, I grew up watching you, my parents grew up watching you, their parents grew up watching you.
Okay, meet and greet over.
Oh, and there is one more performer that I would like to highlight here. And no, it's not any of the guest stars since I've already covered them all, but it's specifically with Kermit, or more accurately, with Matt Vogel's performance as Kermit the Frog. Now, I know that Matt Vogel's Kermit is a divisive figure, even amongst Muppet fans, mainly because of how distinctly different that he feels and sounds compared to the previous performers, like with Steve Whitmire and even with Jim Henson. And I will admit, yes, when Matt Vogel first played as Kermit, it was pretty jarring, where the vocal performance and even some of the mannerisms did feel distinctly different, where he didn't fully capture it immediately that this feels like the same Kermit the Frog we've all come to know and love. But I will give him credit that over time, as more Muppet projects have come out and the more times we've seen Kermit making appearances, Matt Vogel did get a bit better and better and better. But when it comes to this special, however, I think this is the one where finally Matt Vogel got it right. If you had any doubts, or you still have doubts about Matt Vogel as Kermit, I think this could be the one that can go and change your mind, where this is where he finally truly captured that real spirit of Kermit, that this feels like not just Kermit that we have seen from time to time. No, this is like the same Kermit we've all come to expect and we've all come to recognize from the Muppet Show in particular. Maybe there is a little bit of that vocal performance that is a little bit different than before. Like, you could still hear a bit that it is Matt Vogel, but at the same time though, in terms of the performance, in terms of the personality, in terms of the spirit of what makes Kermit distinctly Kermit the Frog, he nailed it. He finally captured it perfectly. So honestly, I would even recommend this to people who have doubts about how Kermit the Frog is right now with Matt Vogel, because if you want to see that Matt is worthy of playing as Kermit, then check this one out. I think this is the one that proves that he's got it right, and now from then on, Kermit is now in the right hands, both figuratively and literally, in a sense.
Well, we are so excited to be back on the very stage where it all started and then ended and then is maybe starting again, depending on how tonight goes.
However, as much as I've pointed out what I think makes this special amazing and what really makes this work, like with the comedy, with the faithfulness to the original series, to the personalities, to the guest stars, and more, I think honestly there's one factor about this that honestly really makes this work, not just as a Muppet special, but just as a Muppet project in general. The one thing that really makes this stand out compared to many of the other attempts prior of bringing back the Muppets, and honestly, it's the timelessness. What I love the most, and I think what really makes this work perfectly as a Muppet Show special, is that it feels timeless. It doesn't put its priority on trying to make the Muppets modern or try to feel like this is the Muppets in the 21st century and all that kind of stuff. And honestly, I've thought about this before, where I feel like this is really the big problem with the Muppets trying to come back in modern times. And this is not just exclusively with the way that Disney has been trying to handle the Muppets ever since that they acquired them, but I feel like this is also an issue that the Muppets have had beforehand, like with stuff such as Muppets from Space, Muppets Tonight, and even a little bit with the Jim Henson Hour. I feel like the biggest problem that the Muppets had, and why they weren't able to go and recapture that prime that they used to have, like with the Muppet Show and with some of the first Muppet movies, is the fact that they've been focusing so much on trying to be modern, trying to be the Muppets, but in the modern times of like right now. And we've seen that attempt again and again, like with what I've already mentioned with the stuff prior to Disney acquiring them, but especially like with Muppets Now and the 2015 Muppet series. And I'll even admit, like, you get a little bit of that as well with Muppets Mayhem. There's always that focus of how do you take the Muppets and try to integrate them into our modern society? How would they go and interact, or how they would react, or how they would be nowadays? And that really takes away so much of what we've known to love from the Muppets. As much as they try to go and maintain their personalities and those familiar traits that we've all come to expect from them, the biggest problem is that the focus has always been on trying to put the Muppets into the modern times instead of giving all the focus onto the personalities themselves. In fact, this is what I think what really worked out with the more well-received Muppet projects in recent years, like with the 2011 Muppet movie and with Muppets Haunted Mansion. With those projects, they weren't really concerned about how to go and make the Muppets modern. They were focusing on doing their own things. And from there, it allows them to go and give more of a spotlight onto the actual personalities than trying to find a way to bring the Muppets back into modern times, to go and modernize the Muppets or anything like that. And to go back into the 2026 special, that's what really makes this work in terms of bringing back that classic formula of the Muppet Show. It's the fact that it brings the focus back onto the personalities. It's not about trying to modernize the Muppets. It's not about trying to bring the Muppet Show back into 2026. It's about the Muppets themselves and trying to put on a theatrical performance. And after all, theater is timeless. And with the Muppets trying to perform in a timeless medium, that in itself helps make the Muppets also be timeless. Because in that area, that's where you see the Muppets themselves and their personalities, where they also feel timeless. Where you got Miss Piggy as a diva. That's a timeless trait that you would expect in a theater. Or Kermit being that stressful manager. That is a timeless aspect. Or like Gonzo as the crazy stunt performer, or Fozzie as the failed comedian, or Statler and Waldorf as the heckling critics and stuff like that. In that theater environment, that's where the Muppets can feel timeless, where they can be enjoyable, whether it be 50 years ago with the original series, or even nowadays in the 2026 special. That's honestly the best thing that the 2026 revival brought back with the Muppets. It's the timelessness. No need to worry about how to bring the Muppets back in 2026. It's about how to bring the Muppets back on stage in the theater that they have performed many years ago. And they've managed to go and nail that. And that is how this feels like a new episode or a new special of The Muppet Show, just like how Jim Henson used to make it.
Yep. Good to be back.
So overall, even though I've been pretty positive when it comes to many of the recent Muppet projects, like I've enjoyed my time with stuff like Muppets Mayhem, for example, but I gotta say, when it comes to the 2026 revival of The Muppet Show, this is honestly the best thing that the Muppets have been on in years. I'd even say that this is the best thing they've been on since the 2011 Muppet movie. And if not that, this is honestly the best thing the Muppets have been on since the 1990s movies like Muppets Christmas Carol and Muppet Treasure Island. It really is that good. And the hardest thing to think about with this series is if I have any criticisms. Like, yes, maybe there are some bits that are not as strong as others, but they're all still good regardless. Like, they could range to being cute and pleasant to being downright absolutely hilarious. And just everything about this works so well. Not just with the personalities of the Muppets, but the special guest stars are also great. The musical segments are a lot of fun to watch, and they provide some extra heart as well. The comedy is just downright hilarious. And of course, the faithfulness of the Muppet Show really does work out, where not only did they bring that old spirit back, but also they help bring the Muppets back to feel timeless again. This is honestly something that I would consider not just something that I'd recommend for you to go and watch, but I'd also consider this to be an absolute must watch. If you want to see the Muppets at their prime, if you want to see the Muppets do what they do best, this is it right there. I highly recommend you go and see this. And not to mention, this is something that I highly recommend you to go and see, mainly because this isn't just a special. This is a possible pilot, because if there are enough views, if there is enough attention given to the Muppet Show special, if there is enough love that is being delivered and that people are talking about it, then Disney will actually consider to turn this into a full-on series, and we may actually get a lot more of it. And if this could actually turn out to be a series and that we would get several episodes of this, I would be so down to go and watch it. And I just gotta say, if Disney is watching this, then I will say, as a Muppet fan, you got a winning formula here. And if you want to go and make the most out of the Muppets, this is it right here. The best start is to go and turn this into a series, and the Muppets will go and really provide you with some great benefits, as much as Marvel and Star Wars had. And I mean, I know that the relationship between Disney and Muppet fans have been pretty rocky lately, especially when lately there was that massive betrayal of taking down Muppet Vision 3D. But I will say, if you want to go and make amends, if you want to go and, win back Muppet fans, this is honestly a great start right over here. This is honestly, like, turning this into a series would actually be a great help, because this is something that feels like now you actually know what you're doing with the Muppets, even after all these years. So with all that said, if I would have to go and give this a rating, I normally don't go and do this, but honestly, this is something that I gotta give this a 10 out of 10. Animat seal of approval. Again, I really do mean it when I say that this has been the best thing that the Muppets have been in a long, long time. And it's honestly great to see the Muppet Show coming back. And it's great to see the Muppets are back doing what they do best. Hopefully this will be the start of something amazing and that the Muppets can be back in popularity in a fun-filled and beloved way. So overall, though, this is just absolutely wonderful. And I want to give out my huge thanks to not just Disney, of course, but also the people at Point Grey and the people at Muppet Studios and everybody in the production. I want to say congratulations and thank you for making this, because honestly, this is so far one of the best things that I've seen in 2026. I know that technically, as I'm recording this, 2026 is still technically in its beginnings, but this was honestly such a wonderful highlight so far, and I hope that there will be plenty more of this to come from the Muppets. And that should do it for this episode of the Muppet Vlog. And with all that said, I want to thank you all so much for watching this. And also, if you had a great time with this Muppet Vlog, or technically this review of the 2026 revival of the Muppet Show, don't forget to go and give this a like and come subscribe to my channel. And even though I talk about the Muppets from time to time, I mainly talk about animation, if it's not obvious by what is around me. So if you enjoy this, then you'll also enjoy plenty of the other videos that I have in my collection and what I have to come. But at the same time, if you really enjoy this and you want to go and support my work and get some amazing rewards, including but not limited to seeing my videos before anyone else, then all you have to do is go to patreon.com/animat. And with all that said, once again, I would like to say thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, see you later, dudes.
Show's not half bad.
Yeah, it's all bad.